I stood in the doorway of my grandmother's dining room, holding a grocery bag full of rolls I'd baked that morning. Aunt Patricia looked up from her wine glass and said, cold as ice, "We didn't set a place for you. This dinner is for real family." My cousins snickered. Grandma wouldn't even look at me. That's when I knew. I was never coming back empty-handed again. My name is Hannah Lewis. I'm 24 years old. Back then, I was a freelance graphic designer working out of a tiny studio apartment across town. My income wasn't steady, but I loved what I did. I drove an old Honda with a dent in the bumper and wore the same black jeans to every family gathering. My family saw me as the broke one. No college degree, no flashy career, no boyfriend to brag about at dinner parties. My cousin Bethany was a real estate agent. My brother Trevor worked in finance. They were the stars. I was the background noise. What made it worse was that I'd been raised by my grandmother after my mom passed when I was 16. I thought that meant I mattered to her, that I was special somehow. I wasn't polished or rich, but I had something they never saw coming: patience and a plan. If you've ever been pushed aside by family, subscribe right now and tell me where you're watching from. I read every single one. That Thanksgiving morning started like all the others. I showed up early to help Grandma prep. I always did. It was our thing, or at least I thought it was. But she was distant, distracted. She wouldn't look me in the eye while I chopped celery at the counter. "Grandma, you okay?" She just nodded and stirred the gravy. Then Aunt Patricia and Uncle Rob arrived with Bethany. They were loud, flashy, carrying 2 bottles of expensive wine like trophies. Patricia saw me in the kitchen and paused. "Oh, you're here early." Not a greeting, just surprise, like I wasn't supposed to be there. I forced a smile. "Just helping out." She didn't respond, just set the wine down and walked away. Kept chopping vegetables, trying to ignore the knot in my stomach. More family started arriving. Trevor and his fiancée Melissa, a few cousins. Everyone dressed up, laughing, taking photos in the living room. I stayed in the kitchen. Then Grandma called out, "Dinner's ready?" Everyone moved toward the dining room. I grabbed the bowl of mashed potatoes I'd been working on and followed. That's when I saw it. There were exactly enough chairs for everyone, except me. I stood there, holding the bowl, confused. Aunt Patricia sat down at the head of the table and smoothed her napkin without looking up. "Hannah, we need this dinner to be adults only. You understand?" I blinked. "I'm 24. Bethany smirked from across the table. "She means people who actually contribute, no offense." The room went quiet. Uncle Rob cleared his throat. "Look, kid, we're talking business tonight. Estate stuff. You're not in that conversation." My throat tightened. I set the bowl down on the counter. "Trevor," muttered to Melissa, just loud enough for me to hear. "She'll get over it. She always does." I turned to Grandma. She finally looked at me. Her voice was quiet, almost apologetic. "It's better this way, Hannah. You've always been different. Different." The word hit me like a slap. I didn't say anything. I just turned, grabbed my coat, and walked out. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, hands shaking, tears streaming down my face. Then I drove home, alone. 2 weeks later, I got a group text from Aunt Patricia. Not a call, a text. "Family meeting at the lawyer's office Monday at 3. Grandma's finalizing her estate. Immediate family only. You're welcome to join for coffee after if you want." I read it 3 times. They were cutting me out. Completely. I called Trevor that night. "Don't make this about you," he said, voice flat. "Grandma wanted it this way." "I didn't even know she was updating her will." He sighed. "Well, now you do." Click. I stared at my phone, numb. A few days. Later, I ran into Bethany and Melissa at a cafe downtown. Bethany was on the phone, talking loud enough for half the place to hear. "Yeah, we're set. Hannah? Oh, she's not in the picture. Never really was." Melissa saw me standing there. She whispered something to Bethany. They both laughed. I walked over. Bethany looked annoyed. "Can I help you? What did Grandma say about me?" She tilted her head, fake sympathy dripping from her voice. "She said you remind her too much of your mom, and that didn't end well, did it? My mom had struggled with depression before she died." Bethany knew that. She smiled. She actually smiled. I turned and walked out before she could see me cry. But something shifted that day. The sadness started turning into anger. A week later, Aunt Patricia called. Suddenly warm, friendly. "Hannah, sweetheart, I need a tiny favor." I didn't say anything. "Bethany's opening a new real estate branch and we need a logo, some marketing materials. You're so good at this stuff." I closed my eyes. "Are you paying me?" She gasped like I'd insulted her. "Paying? Honey, this is exposure. Besides, after everything we've done for you..." I hung up. That's when it hit me. They wanted to use me, but they didn't want to include me. I was done waiting for their approval. What they didn't know was that I'd been working on something for over a year. A boutique branding agency. I'd been freelancing solo for a while, but I'd quietly partnered with 2 other designers I met online. We clicked. We worked well together. In the past 6 months, we'd landed 3 mid-size clients. Revenue was growing. Fast. One of our clients was a startup that had just secured venture funding. They wanted to expand their contract. I'd been careful. Modest. I didn't post about it on social media. I didn't tell my family. I didn't want them knowing until it was real. While they were toasting their inheritances, I was signing a $90,000 contract. I'd also been working with a lawyer. Not for Grandma's will, but to formalize my LLC, business structure, legal protections. My business partner, a woman named Simone, kept telling me the same thing. "You're bigger than they'll ever see. Stop shrinking for them." I was starting to believe her. Simone became more than a business partner. She became a friend. She was older than me. Confident. Blunt. She'd been through her own family betrayal years ago. "You don't owe them anything," she told me one night over coffee. "Build your life. Let them watch." So I did. I threw myself into the work. The startup client wanted to go nationwide. They doubled the contract. Offered us a retainer. My agency was suddenly pulling in 6 figures. I kept it quiet. Deleted old Instagram posts. Stayed off the family radar. Meanwhile, the family group chat was full of updates. Bethany's latest real estate sale. Trevor's promotion. Aunt Patricia posting photos of the family at Grandma's house. I wasn't in any of them. I screenshotted one of the photos. Not out of revenge. Just clarity. One night, Trevor drunk texted me, "You still mad? Grow up. Life's not fair." I didn't reply. Simone helped me open a business savings account. We hired a part-time assistant, started planning a rebrand. Then Bethany's real estate branch ran into trouble. Bad press. A lawsuit from a client who claimed she'd misrepresented a property. Aunt Patricia called me, desperate this time. "Hannah, please, can you help fix this? We'll pay you this time. I promise." I felt the trap closing. They only needed me when they were desperate. I took a breath. "I'll meet you. Tomorrow. Your house." She sounded relieved. "Thank you, sweetie. I knew you'd..." "I'm not promising anything." I hung up before she could respond. Simone looked at me across the table. "You're not actually helping them, are you?" I shook my head. "No, I'm going to tell them the truth." The next day, I walked into Aunt Patricia's house wearing a blazer and carrying my portfolio bag. Patricia, Bethany, and Trevor were waiting in the living room. Grandma was too unwell to come. They thought I was there to bail them out. Bethany didn't even wait for me to sit down. Okay, so we need a full rebrand, social posts, maybe a website redesign. When can you... I cut her off. I'm not here to work for you. Silence. Trevor frowned. Then why are you here? I set my bag down on the coffee table. Because you disowned me at Thanksgiving. You excluded me from Grandma's will. You used me when it was convenient and erased me when it wasn't. Aunt Patricia opened her mouth to interrupt. I'm not finished. My voice was steady, calm. I opened the bag and pulled out printed financials. Business revenue, client lists, signed contracts. I slid them across the table. While you were deciding I wasn't worth a seat at the table, I built my own table. Bethany's face went pale as she read the numbers. That's 6 figures this year, I said. We're projected to hit 7 next year. Trevor stared at the papers like they were in a foreign language. You're lying. I pulled out my phone, showed him the email from the startup client confirming the expanded contract. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. Aunt Patricia suddenly shifted gears, trying to save face. Well, that's wonderful, honey. We always knew you were talented. No, you didn't. I stood up. You told me I wasn't real family. You said I'd never contribute. Bethany said I reminded Grandma of my mom, and that it didn't end well. Bethany flinched. I zipped up my bag. I'm going to build my business. You're going to figure yours out. And if Grandma ever asks, you can tell her I turned out just fine. I walked to the door. No one followed. The silence behind me was deafening, and for the first time, it didn't hurt. I didn't go back for revenge. I went back to close the door. That night, I blocked the family group chat, unfollowed them all. I focused fully on the agency. By spring, we'd landed 2 more major clients. Simone threw me a celebration dinner with our team. Real chosen family. Months later, I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Grandma had asked about me. Aunt Patricia tried to spin the story, but Trevor's fiancée Melissa told the truth. Grandma tried to call. I didn't answer. I didn't feel bitter anymore. Just free. I moved into a bigger apartment, adopted a dog, planned my first solo vacation to Portugal. For once, their silence didn't hurt me. It freed me. I finally understood I never needed their approval. I just needed my own. If you've ever had to stand up to family betrayal, hit subscribe and tell me your story below. Seriously, where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments. I read every single one and I want to hear how you fought back. Your story matters. Don't let anyone make you feel small. And if this resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one.